We've learned here at CBS News is that these CEOs of Walmart, Target privately warned President Trump in the meeting earlier this week that his tariff policy could impact their supply chains and potentially trickle down to the consumers with a shortage of certain goods and potentially empty shelves. Now, this price increase for consumers is something that CEOs of Target have talked about publicly in interviews, but it's, of course, notable they're bringing their concerns directly to the president. Now, the White House and the president battle back against any assertion that they are softening their approach to tariffs. But if you just look at what they've been doing, you saw Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent say that the relationship between the U.S. and China is unsustainable right now. He talked about de-escalating. And President Trump has talked about in recent days of lowering that tariff depending on cooperation with China. And we just heard in an Oval Office meeting where President Trump signed some executive orders that when asked, when could these tariffs be lowered on China, you saw Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick say it really depends on them. And you heard President Trump make a little bit of news when asked if there are talks happening with China.
So welcome back to VTE TV. So in this video, the CEOs of Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's have come together with a meeting with the president to try to find a resolution of the trade wars and the tariffs. So they're trying to figure out what they can do to get the economy back going, because they're saying if something is not done soon, then we could see empty shelves. So let's get into it.
On Monday, Donald Trump met with the CEOs of the big retail stores, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, who told him that they could be 2 weeks away from empty shelves. And everyone in America walking into a Home Depot or a Target or a Walmart and seeing empty shelves would know exactly who to blame. They would blame the president, who is now polling disastrously on the economy and on his illegal and inane tariff war that he is decisively losing. A Reuters poll finds Donald Trump's approval rating on the economy is now 37%. 57% disapprove of how Donald Trump is managing or trying to manage inflation, which is to say increasing it. Polling shows 87% concerned about inflation, 86% worried about the cost of living, and 76% concerned about a recession. Donald Trump has said he couldn't care less if the price of cars goes up. He said, quote, "I couldn't care less if they raise prices." Spoken like a spoiled rich kid who grew up to be a rich Republican president riding in the back seat of government cars.
I'm going to play hardball with China. I'm going to play hardball with you, President Xi. No. We're going to be very nice. They're going to be very nice. And we'll see what happens. But ultimately, they have to make a deal. 145% is very high, and it won't be that high. It's not going to be that high. It'll come down substantially, but it won't be zero. It used to be zero. We were just destroyed. China was taking us for a ride, and just not going to have. It's not going to happen. We're going to be very good to China.
The president also walked back his attacks in part on Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, days after posting online Powell's termination can't come soon enough, in the words of the president there. Yesterday, Trump said he never was actually going to fire Powell.
None whatsoever. Never did. The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates. If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not. But it would be good timing. It could have taken place earlier. But no, I have no intention to fire him.
You can't make this up.
We are also reporting today that a group of CEOs of the top American retailers, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's, had a private meeting with Trump on Monday. They had plenty to say, but there was one warning that stuck out. Empty shelves, they said. Empty shelves in American stores as soon as this summer because of Trump's actions.
What is that meeting in the Oval Office on Monday that we learned about, and other reporters did as well, that really apparently caught the president's attention? And I am told that business leaders, the Business Roundtable and others have been reaching out to White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and other advisors here, trying to get a meeting with the president, trying to convey to him in real terms the real fallout of some of this uncertainty, some of these tariff policies. And it was that empty shelves comment, we are told, that really caught the president's attention. Of course, you can see why. The whole idea that we would have interruption in the supply chain, sort of like we all saw in the pandemic, simply because of his policies, is something that would be difficult for the White House to endure. So that is one of the reasons we are told that he changed his posture. It's interesting.
So what Donald Trump has done is just given every single one of his supporters a crash course lesson in what tariffs are and how they actually impact them. The Democrats were right. We were telling you all this was a bad economic policy for Donald Trump to do. And it literally took the CEOs of those companies to meet with him and look him dead in his eyes and say, "Sir, if you keep this up, there will be empty shelves." And that thought made him realize that all of his lies were finally going to be revealed to the American people. Could you imagine him telling everyday Americans that egg prices have came down 93, 94% while the shelves are empty?
Shortages are coming. So far, Trump's tariffs have been a story about the markets, but the real world effects, they're about to arrive and they could be deadly. With container bookings down over 60%, according to the Flexport CEO. Right, and with that, he said that if the tariffs aren't lifted, we'll see a $2 trillion hit to economic activity, the failure of tens of thousands of American businesses, and the laying off of millions of employees. And this is the Port of LA is seeing a rapid decrease in activity. Next week, they'll see 10% less ships than last year at this time, and then the week of May 4th, 35% less ships. Also, trucking out of the port's already down 23%, and some analysts expect it to fall by 50%. And it's believed that the longer that Trump keeps the tariffs in place, the worse this is going to be, because the tariffs on China are so high that they've been called an effective embargo. And so if nothing changes, starting around May 10th, a lot of US ports will likely become pretty quiet and shortages will begin. Because that is when the ships that would have otherwise left China on April 10th would have arrived in LA. Right, in normal times, it takes 3 weeks for ships to go from China to LA and 40 to New York by sea. So in late May, New York will receive the last pre-Liberation Day shipment, and then their ports will fall quiet for at least 40 days, at least from China. And every day these tariffs stay in place, the longer it takes to fix the shortages. And in fact, you have some analysts saying that even if Trump lifts the tariffs tomorrow, you're still going to have shortages, and it could also create a bullwhip effect where the tariffs get lifted and there aren't enough ships to meet demand. But then also, a surge of all these ships, it could cause the ports to get clogged up too, resulting in even less ships doing shipping, and this causing shortages and shortages raising prices. So in short, I guess in a way it could look a lot like 2020, which, hey, same president too. But for now, follow to stay in the loop.
The major retailers are shaking. Today, Target, Home Depot, and Walmart CEOs had an upfront meeting with Trump about how the tariffs are going to affect their companies, saying it may lead to complete empty shelves. There's a lot to this story. Let's talk about it. I don't think people understand the gravity of this. Walmart is a retailer that is the anchor in a lot of small town communities. Sometimes it's the only store that has everything you need or just anything at all. And Target is the same way in a lot of communities. Now, Target in particular, they get a lot of their stuff from Mexico, a lot of their produce. And ever since the tariffs, they don't know how they'll be able to keep up with the supply chain of that stuff going in and out. And then Walmart getting a lot of stuff from China, and we already know the tariffs on them are 194%, along with an extra 10%. Now, Trump is allegedly doing all this with the tariffs and affecting these American companies because he's saying he's trying to bring production back to America. Let me get you to understand. He's saying we need to make these things here and we need to make these things for us, right? But these companies, that's not how that works. Think about the soybean farmers that are just heavily affected, about China no longer buying soy from any of these farmers in Arkansas, Nebraska, any of that. They're now buying it from Brazil. Now, the Brazil supply chain can't even get it out as fast as the American canned one, but China doesn't care. They're like, we're not messing with you. We said we're not fooling with you no more. We'll wait on the slow guy just to not deal with you. It's giving bad breakup. Now, who would produce, why in America would we want all of that soy? China would want all that soy because they eat what? Soy sauce. Tofu. Hello? A lot of their main base dishes are stuff like that. Everybody don't eat tofu here. Soy sauce is not like a ketchup or a mustard here. So we don't want all them soybeans. Even soy milk. Hello? We are not the main demand. So it doesn't matter if you make 1 million more soybeans for us. We don't need them. Do you see how that's an inconvenience on the buyer and the seller? And I don't know what that's going to do to Walmart, because I saw that in Michigan and in Ohio, they're remodeling a bunch of Walmarts. So what's the point of the remodeling if there's going to be nothing on the shelves that the people need in the first place? We're going to be greatly affected. Again, the people, not Donald Trump. He don't need nothing from Home Depot. He don't need nothing from Walmart. They don't need nothing from Target. The Americans do. Y'all not going to have no Shein, no nothing. There's going to be nothing left. Or people are going to start hand making and cutting down trees and doing it themselves. The major retailers are shaking.